Oh, hey, I'm glad you're here. Welcome to part two, or song two, shall we say, of Dancing at the Blue Iguana, is the film, and the guest is Genna McAllister. This conversation was so great, we had to break it into two parts. The previous part is up already, and this is part two, song two, if you will. This is for the bottoms. To catch you up on the film, something's amiss with Jennifer Tilly. She's thrown up outside of the club. Some of the ladies have had a standoff about regulars. The bookstore guys are kind of gross. Elias Codius is spying in a car, and a girl shows up to dance for Eddie Hazel. She's auditioning. So we talked about auditions. That's as far as we made it into the film because this world is fascinating. Thank you for listening. Thank you for heading on over to the Patreon and supporting the show. It really helps. Thank you for going to the Instagram and the Twitter. Thank you for your questions, comments, and concerns. And without further ado, let's get right to it. The film is Dancing at the Blue Iguana. The guest is Genna McAllister. And this is VH Us. So she gets the job.
Run a pretty tight joint here. No drugs, no hand jobs, no blow jobs, no fucking.
You already answered this question that the rules change from place to place, apparently.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
A strange man shows up at a hotel, and we get the DJ voice.
Ladies and gentlemen, she fell from the sky, the celestial angel.
So some places you have DJs, some you do not.
I think it's time of day. I haven't
Okay.
I haven't worked at too many clubs, but I'm pretty sure there's always a DJ at night. In the afternoons, usually up until some clubs start DJing at 5 or 6, some at 9. Ours starts at 9. Otherwise, you just kind of like go up and kind of star yourself. But yeah, usually they'll have like, next up is this person.
Yeah.
Haha, welcome to the stage, the beautiful so-and-so.
Don't forget to tip the dancers.
Tip the dancers, please.
Yeah. The new girl's trying to fit in, and there's a lot of powdering and lotioning happening backstage. This feels like a fantasy from the director. Is that what it's like backstage, that you're constantly powdering and lotioning each other? And
Strippers don't wear lotion. You're not allowed to wear lotion. Any stripper who wears lotion gets in trouble with other strippers.
there you go.
See, we need pole grip.
Got
so
it.
we need to be sticky. I had to stop wearing lotion completely, even on my days off, to make sure that I wasn't like ruining the pole for everyone. So we do powder ourselves, but we are usually putting gunky stuff on our sticky parts and trying to like also, there's most of the,
Wait,
there's,
I'm sorry. Gunky stuff on your sticky part?
that's my next song.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
That's the third act.
the things that you plan on sticking to the pole. Like if you're trying to climb the pole, there's parts of your body that you're like, I would like to have this not slide.
Got it.
Yeah, so the glamour of putting like weird dry hands on while also being like flirty with people is a really interesting little like behind the scenes moment.
Yeah.
Also backstage, it's a little less powdering and like glamour and more like checking your asshole out. Mm-hmm. I see almost every time I go backstage, I feel like someone's at least like looking, like they'll like squat or like they'll bend over to look at your butthole in the mirror.
Wait, why?
Just to make sure everything's looking good.
Okay.
I'm actually sort of surprised. I feel like I'm like, do I not take good enough care of myself? Because I really don't check my asshole that often.
Yeah.
You just want to make sure there's no like fuzzy hair like
Sure.
sticking out of your
Okay.
stuff. That has
Yeah.
happened to me before, where I'll be in a position where I'll like be leaning back and like spread my legs out for my coochie to be fully exposed, and there'll be like a tuft of hair
Tuft of hair.
like popping out,
Oh, no.
just right on my lips.
And then you're just like,
And there's like the
"Ah."
glow, and there's like somehow glitter on it, and you're like, why is the light beaming in this way where it's almost like a spotlight on the tuft of hair from the shower that I like didn't take off?
One person's just like, interesting choice.
Yeah, they're like, how'd you groom it like that, lady?
I never knew I was into that until right now.
Exactly. So that's part of it. You're like, there's so many like curves and like there's a lot of making sure you're maintaining things well.
Got
Like some
it.
people don't use toilet paper because they're scared the little bits of the thin paper are gonna get caught up in your
Oh.
stuff. So
Wipes, then.
a lot of baby wipes.
Got it.
Stripper must. Everyone likes a stripper with a big thing of baby wipes they're willing to share.
So, you get the job, show up, lots of wipes.
Yeah, this is how you make friends at a strip club, everyone. Or being a patron
Someone's
with
just
them too
gonna
is fine.
Show up to make it rain with just wipes.
Oh, would do.
There
Would
you
do.
go. Be dangerous, probably. She performs, and Eddie Hazel gets a disturbing call of a woman sobbing that he continually listens to for a portion of the film, and I did not understand what was happening.
No idea. I was like, is he into it? Does he like it? Is he concerned? And are his hands tied?
Well, and then I was worried. I was like, oh no, like I have asked her to watch this movie, and it's going to become so disturbing.
It's like really triggering.
But it doesn't. This movie is so interesting because every scene is so short. It's just like a chunk of life, and it just keeps moving, and it feels kind of disjointed in a way, like because they're seeing 5 people's stories, but it's all kind of thrown together.
It's interesting because it's long takes, short scenes.
Yes, really short scenes.
Yeah, and a lot of variance in them.
Yes, so many. Then we got Jennifer Tilly giving an interesting lap dance. The new girl brings in Coke Bro, and he doesn't have money for a dance, and she says she'll do it anyway. Do you, as a performer, have the ability to...
Heck no.
No.
Heck no. I'm never going to give a free dance.
Yeah.
Even if, like, a partner comes in or someone I have a crush on, I'm like, you're going to pay me, and then I'm going to ruin your life. Let's do this. I've actually had some crossover with friends.
Oh, okay.
Some who get private dances. It's like a safe place to flirt with somebody you have a crush on in your
Oh,
friend
there you
group,
go.
you know? It's so fun. Such a great time. Again, sexuality should be explored and like safe and non-taboo in a lot of regards.
Yeah.
But if someone's not willing to pay, my perception, I don't know if it was like I half heard it or something, but I thought he came in for a dance and she was like gonna give him some extra stuff. I thought that's how I perceived it.
I think you're right.
Where he was like, "Ooh, you're gonna kind of give me a blowjob right now."
Yeah.
But I can't quite remember because it was a little late when I was watching it last night. But
yeah, I was making notes at the time, so I think that could have been the scenario.
I think she wanted to be his girlfriend.
Got it.
And I think she was like, "Whatever you want." And I've definitely like off the record, but actually on the record, I guess. Like I've given like discounts before for people where I'm like, especially if you buy more than one, sometimes here and there, depending. I think you need to be charging a regular price, but if you're going to do a package of like 5 dances here and there, sometimes.
Are you straddling them and leaning into their ear and being like, so today's special is 5 dances for $38.95 each as opposed to $48 each. We also have a Groupon for that.
We have a Groupon boob job.
Yeah.
One time I was working and we were all leaving and my coworker was like, let's have a Groupon group hug.
Oh, there you go.
Sorry, I thought that was cute.
If somebody, like, do you have scheduled times to be on stage? And if somebody, for instance, buys a brick of, that's what I'll call them, lap dances, can that throw off your schedule, or do you have to be like, I'll finish those 2 after my time, or how do you navigate all the scheduling part?
I know, it's a crazy life, you guys. To finish that last statement, pay full price, everyone.
There you go.
Never expect a discount. If someone ever gives you a discount, buy them an extra drink or pay for their stage fee.
Or tip.
Or just tip the whole thing.
Yeah.
Just tip. I don't want to like sell anyone short and have anyone assume that they can get a discount because you know a stripper.
Yeah.
That's the most ridiculous thing I've seen way too often. But yeah, there's a rotation. So usually there's like 6 girls on a night, and you'll check in with the DJ when you're ready to go up, and you'll say, okay, you're after so-and-so. And then you always know you're after so-and-so.
Got it.
2 songs each. And then if you're giving a bunch of dances to someone, usually they're like down to hang out, and you'll say, okay, well, I have to be up after this next person. Do you want to wait and do our dances after you see me on stage? Or do you want to do a couple now and hang out? And that's sort of like how it goes. And I think it's nice too, because a lot of the patrons are interested in having you as their like arm candy for the night.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun to just say like, oh yeah, I'll hang out with you over here and back there. And, so we try and make sure that no one gets skipped, because sometimes it's exhausting to be on stage super often or whatever. So.
And then how long is a shift for you usually?
Our shifts are at Devil's Point and Lucky they're noon to 5, 4 to 9, and 9 to close.
Got it. Okay.
Or like 9 to 2:30.
There's such athleticism involved. I was just curious it seems exhausting.
Oh yeah. If someone calls out on a mid or a day shift and you have to do 3 song sets, and there are some clubs, I think Sassy's is like this, and like Acropolis and a couple other ones where you do way longer sets than we do. Like 3 songs or more.
Yeah.
Like you're on stage for 20 minutes or something. That I'm so curious because I want to try and dance somewhere like that and just get super ripped somehow. And depending on the club, like Devil's Point has a static pole that doesn't move. So
right.
Yeah, you don't spin on it. Sometimes I feel like 10 times more exhausted after a couple shifts at Devil's Point. But yeah, it's nice to break up the dances and only do two song sets.
And in the movie, we don't get a lot of their names. We get a little. But that is the big cliche thing. People are always like, how do you get your stripper name? It's like the street you lived on and the last thing you had for breakfast or whatever.
Yeah, it's like an online generator.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a ton of them. How did you come up with your stage name?
Great question.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
when I first applied online for my new career.
Yes.
I used the name Kitty, and that was my original name. I did use that for about 6 months, and I thought of that because I'm a performer, I'm an actor, and I build characters, and I enjoy that. And I had a character that I created who's this like badass, sexy kind of like dom woman named Kitty Kawasaki, and I was like building her at the time.
Oh.
So I was like, I guess I'll call her Kitty, and then I realized I was like, oh wait, taken out of context, that is just like such a I'm like, I'm surprised there weren't more kitties when I was auditioning.
I'm surprised there's not a ton.
Yeah, there's one now, and I love her. She's great. But yes, so I started off as Kitty because of that, and then I was at 6 months later. I was like really looking for a new name, and I was like, I want it to be something that I really enjoy, that sticks out, that's not just like Jennifer. Mm-hmm. You know,
Cinnamon.
I wanted something fun because I had so many coworkers that just Cinnamon's great. That's my next one. But coworkers who like, you know, a lot of times it trickles into your life. I have a lot of coworkers who just go by their stripper name, especially in Portland because it's such a thing. It's like celebrity culture here. It's like you see Cobra out getting coffee. Hi, Cobra. Oh. And
is there a thigh priestess?
There might as well be.
Yeah,
I love that. I love that pun. But I came up with Gidget because I think I was at a show. I was at a Krungbin show at like I don't even know if that's how you pronounce them. But they have this like really amazing aesthetic that's it all kind of works really well together with the type of music that they play, and it's all kind of like 70s. And it's so I loved that like timestamp on their aesthetic and how they just there's so much freedom in that, and you can play with it so much, and it takes you to a place.
Yeah.
And like that night at that show, I was like, Gidget.
There it is.
Yes, because I used to watch the Sally Field show. I don't know if you... Yeah. So it was like 1964, I think, when it came out.
That's great.
I used to watch the entire series with my mom every summer.
Oh, that's wonderful.
We were totally obsessed, and I like wanted to be her so bad. And I had this like huge like performer love crush on Sally Field. I mean, she's brilliantly talented.
Is your mom like, I think we were watching a different show because your interpretation of Gidget's
You're
very
like, oh, I didn't know she was a total hoe. I know. I called my mom, and I was like, what do you think? Because I came out to her. I mean, I'm a terrible liar, so it's obviously I can't keep a secret to save my life. But they ended up finding out, and it's been a total journey. But we're all like great now, my whole family. But but yeah, so I called her and I was like, "What about Gidget?" And she's like, "You're such a Gidget." Although I have some regrets. Like while I love that name and while people are, you know, they remember it. It's so hard for people to understand because not everyone knows what Gidget is. So they're like, oh, from that one, it's like a bunch of random movies. I think there's other Gidget characters out there.
Know the one, yeah.
There's like a gremlin, I think, that people are calling Gidget that I don't know. And people are like, oh, like a...
You mean Gizmo?
Yeah, they think it's Gizmo.
Oh, Gizmo, yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, no.
I'm not Gizmo, I'm Gidget.
I'm literally not a gremlin, but thanks anyway.
They're like, oh, the female gremlin. Got it.
Got it. The lady, the feminine grem. Yeah, or people who are like, oh,
feminine grem is great.
Femgrem. Or like, like a fidget spinner, or like a gadget, like Gizmo Gadget, or like Go Gidget. And I'm like, okay, we're trying. Or some people think I'm saying DJ because it's loud, or digit, like digits. And I'm like,
like fingers.
Like fingers. And I'm like, cool, I regret everything. Yeah. But I'm actually going to stick to it, so.
That's good. I like that. I would go with Utah Beef Straw, I think would be my stripper name.
Oh, I love a good rhyme.
Yeah. It's kind of like Groupon Boob Job.
Yeah, it's exactly. Kind of. I know. People know me more as Groupon Boob Job than Gidget. So often people come in and they're like, I follow you on Instagram. I hope this isn't weird.
And you're like, just the way you're talking from the 1920s.
I'm like, why are you talking like this? Sir, Groupon Boob Job is here in the flesh. Yes, she is.
Oh, man. So Jennifer Tilly comes out on stage, and she is on fire. And in the film, they show some girls work the floor, and some girls do the pole. Mm-hmm. Do you have a signature move? We've seen, like, there was one lady we saw in a club once that had the big, chunky shoes, and she would just, like, slam them on the stage. That was her move. She'd do, like, the splits, like you were saying, and she would slam her toes against the stage, and everyone's like, whoa.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Do you have, like, a cartwheel or something that you do that's
Yeah, just full backflips. No.
just standing backs. That's why you can't do 20 minutes.
I just stand and look like I'm punching a punching bag.
Oh, nice.
No,
and then so you take the top off, then 4 minutes of just standing punching.
Yes,
then drop the bottom and just 4 minutes of standing punching.
Yes, exactly. I'm an actual action figure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Some people would be so confused and eventually into it. They'd come around, I think.
I just try to convert as many people. Again, the confused boner thing is like my MO. I just want people to like not know why they're horny. I don't necessarily have a staple move.
Yeah. You're more fluid.
I guess, like, it depends on the audience. I'm so much more, because I come from a performance background, so I'm so much more, my strong suit lies in, like, okay, all these guys have dead face.
Yeah.
How do I either change their dead face or just suck it up and cater to it? So then sometimes there'll be floor work and like get a little closer. It depends. Like I was watching this with my partner and they were like, do you make less money doing floor work? And I was like, it depends. At Devil's Point, a lot of people want to see you hanging upside down. So they'll tip crazy because it's a very stage performance based club. And then at some other clubs, or sometimes like getting near the customer excites them so much. I guess one of my signatures is probably some like twerky garbage and like trying to encourage people to like fan me down with ones.
There you go.
I'm like, oh, can you just please? It feels so good. Just throw some ones on my butt and see if I can keep them on there, which means you need to pay me.
Yeah.
Actually, so it's a lot of, for me, none of my sets are ever the same. I usually kind of base off, a lot of times I really just like bantering because it's always the same. Like you said, it's like constant repetition. There's really not a lot going on. It's
sure.
You go on stage, you get off stage. There's people who sometimes sit there. But like somehow it's like infinite material for comedy. And so I try and like zhuzh up the room a little bit and have some fun. And that can be really, it's always interesting. It's always like such a wild ride at the club.
Yeah. Does that catch people off guard? They're like, she's telling jokes up here.
Oh my God, 100%.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're just total fails. Sometimes people build houses with ones. Have you seen that before?
No.
Where they're like, I'm going to fold these
with the little
ones.
triangles and...
Yeah, they'll like stack them as like a house, and I'm like wondering if they want me to step on it or sit on it.
Right.
One time I just blew it over and asked if that was what breath play was.
Nice.
They were like, I don't think that they probably weren't into like the kid
He's like,
world.
actually, no, breath play.
Actually, no, let me take out my dictionary and like tell you, like, you obviously don't have a FetLife account. So that's, I guess, my signature is
mixing it up.
Yeah.
That's good. Keeps it new every time.
Totally.
I'm not late.
So then they offer to make an appointment for Jennifer Tilly to get an abortion. That is like the biggest drama, I feel like, in the movie. Is this that one person doesn't want to take care of themselves in a way? I don't know. It's interesting. We see Daryl Hannah in the office to foster a child. This is probably my least favorite scene.
So uncomfortable.
Because I really love children, and I really feel that I could give them a safe and happy place to be while they're waiting for their parents to get out of rehab.
And just the way they show her in the shoes with this 1990s, I know it's 2000, but stripper clothes, like they portray her that she doesn't even have normal clothes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's a problematic film portrayal, but it is sort of one-sided.
It's a little unnecessary.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost comedic.
Yeah.
And I feel like at that point, then you're kind of making fun of somebody. So I don't know. I felt like...
It was like 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Yeah.
They were trying to portray something, but they weren't. It's like go all in or don't. And so that's kind of the issue I had with that entire character.
Well, like, why doesn't she have a second side? Like, Sandra Oh's character she likes poetry. She's, like, well-read. She's an intelligent person. There you have something that's going to play against what we've seen in previous movies. But then you have Daryl Hannah, where she is portrayed as dim as could be.
Yeah, 100% damsel in distress all the time.
Exactly.
And, like, her only facet was just being, like, comically stupid.
Right.
And, like, not know how to take care of herself. And then everything that kind of happens at the end, which you'll probably get to.
Yeah, you could,
yeah, where, like, there's this, like, handsome, total stalker, creepy guy, and she's, like, in love with him, and then he disappears and gives her money or something.
Yeah.
I was like, what is that?
What is happening?
Also, why are you, like, outside smoking alone
Yes.
in, like, almost naked in, like, an alleyway?
Yeah.
Where there's a man who's literally got, like, a point and shoot at you, like, staring at you obsessively.
Yeah, it's really gross.
And then she, like, loves him for it. She's like, oh, you're the man who sent me flowers, you creep. I love you so much.
Attention.
Yeah, it was so bizarre.
The next performance is set to another of the worst songs for stripping ever. This movie's soundtrack is mind-boggling.
Yes.
It's so terrible, which means it's time to play a little game, top or bottom. And in this game, I'll name a song and you tell me if it's a good song, we'll say that's top, or a bad song for stripping, and we'll say that's bottom.
Amazing.
Okay, there's only 5.
Okay, I'm like, I hope I recognize them by the title. You might have to sing. Is that okay with you?
No.
Oh,
So
okay,
the
great.
first song
We'll
is
see.
Eric Clapton's Tears in Heaven. Good song or bad song?
Woof. You know, I'm all for a campy song, but that's a hard no for me because I will cry.
Yeah, it's a song about a dead kid. It's terrible. It's not a good one.
Tragic.
Okay. I Touch Myself by the Divinyls.
I would do it.
Yeah. Okay. 3. REM's Everybody Hurts.
I think I have danced to that before.
What?
It kind of depends, but I've danced to like confusing Bjork songs. So
That's true. We did talk about this confusing boner situation.
Yes, exactly. I might. I might have actually done that.
Okay. Number 4, Soft Cell, Sex Dwarf.
I don't know how that one goes.
Yeah, that's okay. It's
What's it about?
It's about a sex dwarf.
I would do it.
Yeah, it's pretty great. I mean, I think you would say little people now, but also it's implying that they're getting sex, so maybe it's okay. I'm
I
not
danced.
Sure.
I found this song on like, I don't know. I was like in a rabbit hole on Spotify the other week, and it was like, I want to make love to a mannequin, and he like repeats the words to a mannequin.
Just over and over.
Yeah, and I danced to that for some reason. So I would probably put that on the docket.
I like that.
It was bizarre.
Yeah, that's great. Last one, Motley Crue, Girls, Girls, Girls. 2 on the nose. Cliche.
God, it's sometimes, if you can make it tasteful, it depends on who you are as a performer.
Uh-huh.
Or like who's in the audience. Sometimes I'll play things I don't necessarily love to do, but if I'm trying to like get people in the zone.
Right.
So it wouldn't be a hard no. It'd be a switch. Top or bottom, I'll call it a switch.
Perfect. Then we get a flashback with a girl and Elias Codius. He's super young in this scene. Less disturbing than the rest of his career. Daryl Hannah and Sandra Oh have weed, and Daryl Hannah says some questionable things that might be perceived as pretty racist as they decide to clean up so she could adopt the child. We then have Jennifer Tilly goes to the doctor, has an awkward scene about abortion, and is smoking in the waiting room, and it's pretty insane.
Everybody doesn't have a happy, cheerful, chirpy life like you do, all right? Okay? Everybody's not here to have a baby. Fuck you!
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack. Many ladies I've seen have... oh, wait, that's a weird transition. Angel gets a huge flower delivery, which you touched on earlier. I know a lot of performers have Amazon wish lists and things. How does that gifting kind of situation work, and does it ever get awkward? Are the gifts given in person? Are they mailed to the club?
Yeah. I haven't had a lot of experience with it because I don't know why I haven't really made one for myself. But yeah, usually things will get mailed to a club. A lot of times it's like, oh, I love your stuff. Like I love seeing you online or whatever. And I have some people who live far away who may or may not have already met me in person, but like want to show their appreciation for what I do or my butt or I don't know, and want to like find a fun, clever way of like paying. And usually I just sell photos or something like that. But you can also send like a wish list, and they'll usually mail it to the club just for safety purposes.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
Sometimes I have some customers will come in being like, I got you like a diamond necklace, and I'll like hand deliver it.
Wow.
It depends on your relationship with the person. I had one of my favorite people comes in all the time, and he doesn't usually sit at the rack, but he's just like the kindest, sweetest man. And for Christmas, I think it was, he made me a Gidget spinner. So he bought a fidget spinner, and then like,
I get it.
he was like, he wrote this card, and he's like, I'm sorry, this is like the creepiest shit you'll probably ever get. I thought it was funny, so I had to do it. He like printed off photos of me off of Instagram onto this like sticky, like thicker paper, and he like glued these photos of me on the corners of the fidget spinner, and he's like, here you go. I hope you like it.
That's really thoughtful, though.
I loved it. My mom was like, that's creepy, and I'm like, it's amazing, Mom.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I have it to this day. Like I always talk about it and like have it with me. Cause
I like that.
I love it too. I think that like, I disagree with my mom. I think that being able to like show that kind of affection and like appreciation for someone. I'm also just a gift giver. I enjoy doing that. I love making things for people or finding something, being like, so and so would love this like keychain I found at Whole Foods. I don't know. That's a terrible example. I'm usually like thrifting or something, and I'll be like,
Our versions of shopping seem like people that have never shopped before. You're like,
I go to Whole Foods for my socks.
I buy keychains at Whole Foods.
I don't know. I'm like, what do you buy there?
Like everyone, buy gallons of milk every time I go shopping.
Yeah, I buy gallons of milk to just give to people because I don't drink it.
I printed off pictures of you and glued them to this milk carton.
That's my next one. I'll give it back to him that way.
I don't understand. Is this a pun?
I'll be like, guess what? I found your Instagram. You want to see the photos I printed off?
Sandra goes to a poetry reading, and it is just painful to sit through.
If in the scar-like tawny afternoon a drift of hair, it's only love but gone in the way of everything. If in the morning of your soul a brush of tenderly imagined lips, it's only love but gone in the way of everything.
She, of course, is forced to read. She kills it, and then she gets really mad, and he says that she's really good.
It's really great. I don't know what to say.
No, thanks.
It's a wonderful, wonderful situation there.
It was weird.
Yeah.
Glad you agree.
Eddie gets a painting of himself, the strip club owner, and he puts this painting up that's like of his younger self or something. Pretty sure you can see the outline of his penis in the painting. It's very strange, and he just loves to reflect on that painting. We have a back and forth between Sandra and the guy talking about poetry, non-sexual things, and then Eddie's talking to a gross guy about weed. I don't even know what that sentence is about. I'll just cut that part. Guy 2 says he wants to kiss the poet because she's thinking that he's talking about her stripper way of being, or and he's like, I want to kiss just the poet side of you, essentially, which is disturbing.
Yeah, I didn't like any of that, and it was weird because I couldn't quite tell what their attempt was at portraying him.
Yeah.
Where I was like, okay, he seemed to not really have too much of an interest in her until his coworker was like, she's a stripper though, and then he like calls her out at the reading. He's
that guy in I think all the stripper movies that's supposed to be like, oh, look, I'm the person not a part of this world. Like, you could be a normal girl. It's like the Little Mermaid with the prince where he's like, give up your way of being and be my belonging or whatever.
Right. It's safer here.
Yeah. And then she's like, no, like, this is a part of me. And then once he sees that, later on, we'll just skip over that part, but like, he can't handle it.
Right.
He's like, oh, no, like, you're just mine. And it's, that's this version of that. It's very relaxed compared to other films.
Right. I wish that they were a little bit more sturdy in what they were trying to say, because that is a genuine issue. I know a lot of folks who have a hard time. Sometimes it's hard to date. Sometimes it's harder even to be single.
Yeah.
And not have someone to talk about your day with. But some people are like, oh yeah, all these people come in, I meet my new future boyfriend at a strip club and he thinks I'm awesome then. And then all of a sudden I'm still a stripper. Mm-hmm. Nothing's changed, but now I'm his girlfriend and now he doesn't want me to be a stripper anymore.
Well, and being queer, how does that impact your work? I mean, I guess either way, like straight or gay, your performances are going to be your performances. But is your clientele predominantly like straight guys, or is it like an even mix? I just mean like on the day-to-day, like you're having to be this character that's like, especially in a private dance, you're like, oh, this is this is my skill set for private dances. Ooh, you're totally into me and my stuff and things.
Let's make it look like we're having sex.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's odd. I think it's definitely, it's a double-edged sword too, because sometimes it's hard for me to find a lot of, like, I mean, it's not like we're there like looking for a boyfriend. Like that's the image, like what we're trying to do is create a sense of intimacy for people. And that can all be very genuine, and it doesn't always end up resulting in like partnership or like getting laid or whatever. Like our service as strippers or whatever form of sex work is not, there's a line. There's a little bit of a line there, and sometimes they can get muddled because intimacy, emotions, vulnerability, sex, all
part
of that
the performance is the illusion too.
Yeah, there's illusion, and that's where it gets really interesting, is thinking about the performative aspects of sex in any way. When I'm at home with someone that I care about, or like having a one night stand or whatever's going on, like there's always this feeling of, am I performing? Right. And I think it's really interesting to kind of have a job where you're like constantly performing, but you're also always trying to be as present as you can, like depending. Sometimes you know, I'm guilty of this sometimes. I'll be like laundry listing in my brain and like making shapes happen.
Right.
You know, whatever. I'm like, ooh, shape, angle, angle, angle. Like this will work. This is your line of sight. Like thinking that way. But in general, like the best dances experiences I have, which I love giving private dances for this reason, is you're kind of forced to be present in a sense, and you're like, I'm feeling your vibe, and I'm reading your body language and seeing what you want. Like,
Yeah.
I've had dances before where someone just wants to look me in the eye for a few minutes, or someone wants to hug me for a few minutes, or someone just wants to ask questions and talk, or someone just wants to like look at only my butt, or only my boobs, or only like my armpit hair. That's happened. Really random. Yeah, in terms of being a queer dancer, most of us are at least a little queer.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of helped me out with my sexuality and my like ability to like enjoy men. You know, I don't want to like name my queer identity, but I generally prefer women. But it's not hard. Like, I'm sure you're like this. Anyone's like this. Is like, yeah, men kind of can suck.
Yeah.
That's not surprising to me. So when I started working,
I grew up around a lot of them, and they are pretty terrible. Let me tell you.
Right. So it's like, okay, that's no shocker. I don't need to work at a strip club to know that much. But if I'm spending more time around men, I can see like the good side, and it's actually really been healing a lot. And,
That's great.
And I'm not saying like I rule out men always, whatever. You know, like I feel attraction to all sorts of people, but it's actually, it's given me a little bit of a positive aspect. And it's also nice because I'm like a little bit more rarely like turned on and attracted to someone, which is a good thing and a bad thing at work. Sometimes you just want to kind of be turned on. You're gonna just do better because you're super horny and you want to look horny, so it's just way easier.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a double-edged sword where I have a little bit more like control over my emotions and my physicality, like hormonally.
Yeah.
But also sometimes I'm like, oh, today I'm really faking it.
Really phoning it in.
Yeah.
What about like
really phoning it in? I love that.
if you have a cold or something, you still have to perform? Well, that's got to be a weird.
Cough in people's mouths.
There's probably somebody who's like, I'll pay for that.
Can I have that? Thank you.
Just
Yeah.
mouth coughs.
Yeah, sometimes, being sick and dancing is kind of tough, too. Also, eating weird meals before dancing.
Oh, yeah. That's got to be tricky.
Yeah, we don't have to talk too much about, like, farts during this podcast episode because I don't think that's necessary. But there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
We're all trying to figure out the right diet. We're all trying to figure out, like, okay, because healthy diets a lot of times will bloat you because it's a lot of vegetables. And we're like, we don't know. There's a lot of intricacies, you guys. This is a complicated line of work.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. No, in the first episode, I talked to Michelle Lesniak, who won like Project Runway and everything. And she said one of the big takeaways was that there's a fart corner, and that because they're all eating just like hummus and vegetables off the deli tray or whatever. And so they just designated in the design studio one corner where people would just go to fart.
Yeah.
Which is not something I expected to hear from a fashion designer, but is pretty fantastic.
That's such a real thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reality. People want to pretend that's not a thing, but, people are checking their buttholes in mirrors and, being...
And sometimes it's hard to control it when you're literally spread.
Oh, right. Well, it's like yoga where you're doing all these different stretches and moves and everything. Yeah. I mean, things are going to happen. I guess that's why the music is so loud.
Yes, absolutely. Fog machine, music. It's all just a big distraction.
Those are things we need in our bathroom, just like a strobe light, loud music, a fog machine. Everyone's like, is there a rave going on?
And then
in
like
there?
cheap perfume.
Oh, yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah, just awful. Then Jesse comes in, and things are tough and confusing and hilarious concerning a dominatrix situation with Jennifer Tilly.
Hey. Hi. All right, don't talk to him. He's being punished, okay? Anyway, he doesn't exist. He's just a little pathetic worm. Get down on the floor! Did I tell you to sit up? Get down on the floor!
So she is...
Loved that scene.
Yeah, it's the best scene in the whole movie.
Really...
She's doming this guy.
Truly.
And then in she comes... They're talking, and then the guy being domed starts talking, and she's telling him not to talk. And then my favorite thing was in the middle of all this, and the other girl's going to stay at the apartment, he gets out a little whip and sets it in front of him. He's like, oh, just for when you come back.
Yeah.
And I just loved this weird, like, it's the way it breaks everything down and shows, like, where was the warmth in the rest of the movie? It's like, you feel it in this scene.
Yeah.
It's pretty wonderful. It is unnerving that it's happening in her apartment.
Yeah, it's interesting, but that's part of that job, that line of work. Sometimes you'll have subs come in and like live in your apartment and live in a dog cage, or like clean your house for you every day or something like that. It's fascinating.
Yes.
So, yeah, I loved that scene so much, especially just like the power dynamics between everyone. It was fascinating. This girl, she's like, this woman is very like, I was like, of course she's a dominatrix when that scene came up. I was like, amazing. Also, like, she's really able to take it out on this guy.
Yeah.
Not even sure if it's in a good way. And then yeah, her coworker comes in and she's just like, oh no, what happened to you? But also like screaming at her to stop because she's totally out of control. The power dynamics in that scene could. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's wonderful. And then when we get another crazy scene where Daryl Hannah stops to look at her picture on a billboard, and a police officer shows up, and she almost is out of the situation, and she asks him to crawl through her car to unlock the door, and he finds marijuana.
Do you have to handcuff me?
I'm afraid I do. It'll only take a minute.
But you can find me at the Blue Iguana, like, every day. I'm really a good person, and I have...
Ma'am, I'm just going to ask you to stand still just for a few minutes, okay? I'm just going to take a look in the car for your license and registration.
Again, this is the year 2000, so she's in trouble then at that point. And the whole thing with the purse it's just ridiculous. Then we see a girl performing, and she's hit by $1. And so I wanted to talk about, how do you deal with things like that? Have you had people throw things at you? Is it a situation where you're being pelted with money and you're fine with it? How do you balance that?
Usually, if money's being thrown, I'm probably not complaining. One time I tried to throw a deck at one of the strippers that I work with, and like a deck is in like a large stack of ones.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted to like make it rain, whatever, but I think I did it wrong. And so I ended up like whapping her in the butt with just like the full stack didn't, you want it to flutter away like a flock of birds, but it was actually just like on her butt while she was spinning really fast.
Funny.
You could hear it go,
bam.
I was like, sorry, honey.
Sorry.
Sorry, but also here's some money.
That's hilarious.
I have no problems with it. Some of the poker players at Lucky Devil will throw chips at the strippers because they think it's funny. So that's the controversial thing at my club. Is I always make jokes about how none of us have real front teeth anymore. But yeah, we're not covered insurance wise, but we do have dental.
Is that true?
No, that would be cool though.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the only weird thing. Usually if you're throwing money on me, I'm not upset. I don't like, no one, please, it's not classy to like drag $1 along a person's body. That's just kind of disgusting.
Yeah.
We don't know where it's been. So throwing money on my private parts is generally unclean and gross.
Yeah.
And all of us are pretty much clean freaks, especially you kind of have to overcompensate like the griminess of a club.
Sure.
So you have to be like really, really, really clean again just to overcompensate. So sometimes if someone's trying to like drop money on my pussy, I'm gonna be like, please don't. Or like some people put $1 in their mouth and think I'm gonna grab it with my mouth.
Yeah.
I'm like,
that's not happening.
That's foul and disgusting.
Yeah.
I mean, some people don't mind. Like, I'm perhaps more of a germaphobe than others. I'm not saying, like, no one grab $1 with your mouth. But if you're expecting me to and you don't know me...
Not happening.
I'm probably going to grab it with my hands and say, thanks for tipping appropriately.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
It's respectful.
What the fuck you here? You here late, goddammit. Where the fuck were you? You couldn't call?
I need VIP night off.
Goddamn your prices.
Eddie,
I swear to God.
I can't work anyways. My fucking cramps are so bad.
Oh, your cramps are killing you. How long you worked here,
I was talking
Jasmine?
to Joe and Angel.
How long you worked here? A year, right?
Yeah.
When was the last time you got off of cramps? Never.
Sandra asks for time off for cramps, and Eddie says no. Eddie then screams, "You got no life and no friends." It's pretty terrible. This seems to be what this melancholy film is sort of projecting, that these women are actually trapped in this line of work, and that despite their efforts or interests, they're not gonna escape or move on from something, which is sort of problematic because it is portraying that there is less than any other thing that you could be doing.
Right. That's also a really controversial thing to kind of touch on, and I'm kind of glad they did it. Again, I don't think the movie was like thoughtfully made enough.
Right.
You know, some things I'm like, ooh, almost a good point.
Yeah.
But still a little too like confusing, convoluted, not exactly direct. But so in some environments that can feel absolutely like the case. However, like we're trying to move into a part in history where in our culture where it doesn't have to feel like that.
Right.
Where of course like trying to get, there's going to be there's probably going to be kind of a weird resume gap if you're trying to get out, and sometimes if you're really in the industry it can be really, really hard to get out because it's so stigmatized and it can be thought of as so negative when again, like, this industry has taught me so much more about myself than I think a lot of people will ever get the opportunity to learn about themselves as a person. And for me, like, largely, like, my main skill set of things that I pride myself in have come from what I've learned as a stripper. And so, but we're still not at this point in society where we feel comfortable being like I wrote independent contractor last time I had an interview, which I ended up just telling them, I'm like, listen, I'm a stripper. Yeah. Can I tell you all of the things that has done for me as a person? And that's where we're trying to move towards. But it's still, I mean, even in Portland, that's really, really tough because people really look down on it.
That's crazy.
Still, yeah. And so so it can really feel suffocating. So it's hard to keep it's almost important to keep one foot in, one foot out, unless there are a lot of folks who do like their careerist stripping and make a lot out of it. And you can totally do that. And I think that's extremely admirable and very brave and very amazing. And like, it's such an incredible art form. So it can feel trapping. I don't like how he did it, where he's like, you don't have a life. Yeah. You don't have friends. It was very like weird gaslighty, and also being like, you don't have cramps. Yeah. Where I'm like, listen, sir, you don't have cramps.
Yes, exactly. Quit ogling your own penis in that painting.
Exactly.
He then finds the poetry book in her bag. He's like, oh, God, what is this? This is so crazy that she has interest and can read.
Who taught you how to read?
Yeah, exactly. Then a feature is brought in, and there's a tension between the feature and one of the performers. She has a specific place she sits and whatnot. Is there an interesting dynamic to that, like where you're working in a club and an out-of-town feature? I don't know if I'm using the right terminology, but a performer comes in that's going to be performing. I don't know if there's a hot spot in the evening where you want to be, or I know in stand-up there's a time slot, but...
Yeah, since we're on rotation, it's not necessarily about that, at least at my club. And then also in terms of sometimes, so there's an element of like, you know, rites of passage in this industry. And so if you've been at a club for X amount of years, like, you deserve to have a spot. And like, I know certain coworkers I'll work with who are like, I want to be on this side or in this corner or in this room or whatever. And it's pretty easy to just say, okay, sounds good. I've worked here for a very small fraction of how long you've worked here. Absolutely, I got you, you know, and that just keeps the peace. And it's also just generally respectful. Yeah. It's like your elders. It's like respecting your elders, which is like no longer part of our culture somehow.
Yes, it's crazy.
So I have like zero problem doing that. A lot of people are like, but I worked hard too. It's like, yes, you worked hard. It's not about working hard.
Sometimes we're all doing it.
We're all doing it. Just chill out. It's like, you know, it's like pick your battles kind of thing. But yeah, in terms of like guest performers, the only ones I've worked with are folks who've already danced at my club previously, who just come in who are like visiting town or something. Okay, because that's usually like exciting.
Instagram, it was like, you know, someone that has from 10,000, then they have like 35 or something, and then they're coming in. But what I was seeing, and you never know because it's Instagram, we're all portraying our lives. However, looked like camaraderie, community, support, and then comments on pictures would be from these people that have like 30,000 more followers or whatever, and they'd be like, no, you're awesome, when one dancer would say that they're awesome. And that kind of, I mean, they don't have to do that. No. So that just makes me feel like what I was seeing and what I did want to have you here to talk about was something that maybe a lot of people didn't think about, and that is sort of this band of people behind the scenes that are taking care of each other and making sure each other are okay or in a good place, or you know, and that's, I think, very important for people to hear.
Yeah, we are all here to care for each other. Yeah. And while, of course, there's always going to be a tiff or a communication issue because we all have different backgrounds, like this industry it runs on relying on each other. And so I brought my mom in. She was like, I'm ready to see you strip. And it was totally awkward and weird.
It's a terrifying voice.
She sounds like this. Yeah, she's the Grim Reaper. But she ended up coming in, and she like had all these questions, and it was like the sweetest, most incredible experience like any kid could ask for. Yeah. Even though it's super weird. She's like, it feels like nothing's wrong happening. I just feel like I'm walking in on you like masturbating, which again, like no parent really wants to do, even though you're not in trouble.
You're not allowed to masturbate though in the club, are you?
No. That was her analogy. I should be more clear with that. But anyway, she had a question. She was just like,
You're like, do you think that's how I masturbate?
Yeah, I'm like, Mom, I have to touch myself to masturbate.
I mostly just do forward rolls.
Yeah, I mostly am just like upside down on like a monkey bar. That's my thing.
It's self-taught. So.
It's self-taught. But she had a good question where like there's not always a bouncer sometimes. Like earlier in the day, usually there's not a bouncer and we all kind of have to function as one.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, so what are the things that you do as a collective? You know, a lot of times it's strippers you've never worked with,
Yeah.
or like when you're on weird rotations, or there's always, it's like a revolving door. A lot of times there's new people who've never worked there.
Mm-hmm.
Usually the ones who stick around are the ones who are no bullshit, because we don't want bullshit. Because
Right.
especially as a strip club owner, if you've been doing it for 20 years, like, you don't want to deal with some petty garbage. You just want people who are professional,
Yeah.
you know? And she was like, yeah, what do you guys do in terms of like security during the day? And it was funny because I was like, I haven't really even thought about it, because we all just kind of genuinely have
Just
our
do
backs.
it. Yeah.
We don't have any big talks because I'm not the big dog. We don't really have like a mother. But it's super important for all of us to have each other's backs, especially in environments where like it's not always super safe. And like our staff is incredible, and you're not going to catch everything all the time.
Sure.
And everyone's boundaries are different. And so it is important. I agree with you. It's important for our audiences to know that like women function better when we can rely on each other and we can bring each other up. And
Yeah.
it's a hard enough world to be a woman or a human in general. Like everyone needs to be doing this with each other, whatever gender you are. And specifically women, because we are targeted by the media again as like cat fights and
Yeah.
like we're culturally like encouraged to hate each other and be competitive because
the
it keeps us
competitive
apart.
thing. Yeah.
It keeps a minority fighting against each other, so we can't come together and actually like create change, like
Yeah.
really positive change that would benefit every gender, every person. So very important, very true. I'm glad you noticed that on Instagram and on online platforms, is all of us just worship each other.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And like, great growth. Super happy to see you doing this stuff. Like, where'd you get the outfit? Like, I love it. And we're all supportive resources. It's really fun.
Yeah. And there can be questions about outfit. So, you know, it's all there.
100%.
Yeah. So then the guy comes to the club to see Sandra Oh perform. She gets him a nice spot where he can sit. And like we talked about earlier, he can't take it.
Yeah.
And he leaves. The girl then meets with Elias Codius. They kiss. It's real gross. And
True.
And then she wants him to make love to her. He says no, and they both cry.
Make love to me.
It was a scene that was very disturbing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't understand what's happening.
I didn't either. There was a lot of confusion going on.
Then they get to a feature dancing, and she dances to Echo and the Bunnymen's Lips Like Sugar. And I was like, well, there's where the budget for the music went. They got an actual song.
I know, and I was like, I've danced to this. It's a fave.
Yeah, it's a good,
So
it's a good
good.
choice. I was like, someone did some research now.
Exactly.
Then we see her leave the stage clutching cash. Does every dancer have to rake up the money off the stage? And this is something that my wife said, that makes her sad. Like, I feel like, can't we just get someone to get the women's money and take it back to them?
1,000%. Oh my goodness, yes.
Why
That's
is this
like
the thing?
number
Like,
one
let you
thing.
leave with dignity. Why do you have to
Exactly.
pick the money
Just
up?
like that's like sad, almost pitiful seeming thing, and
You
like,
should do a bow and be gone. And like,
Right.
someone rakes it over and stacks it up for you and brings it back.
God, I wonder. I can't remember who I was talking to. I want to make sure I can give them like credit for this idea. It's similar to mine. I'll mash their idea up with mine.
Yeah.
Is to like hire a part-time like 20-year-old Twinkie guy.
Yeah, there you go.
And have him like, and that was a friend's idea. I forget who it was, but have him be just like the hired money sweeper.
Yeah.
And I want someone with like a push broom.
Yes.
With like pink feathers on it.
There you go.
To just and he's wearing like a sexy like maid costume.
Yeah, ass
I
out.
would tip him out. I'd pay him. I'd make sure
Yeah.
he has enough money.
There you go.
Absolutely, yeah. Because that was the other thing. I was like, my mom had never been to a strip club, and like once you've been enough, you just know it's the thing.
Yeah.
You kind of don't notice it anymore. You're like, okay, well, they're gonna crawl around and pick up their money. It's also, I think there's an art to doing it in a tasteful way, where you want to like present yourself as someone who's like, this is the sexiest part.
Yes.
Watch me crawl around. Watch me crawl around and collect dollars with all my body parts and
Yeah.
find a way off stage. You know, like that you can make.
Yeah.
You'd have to kind of make it a show.
Okay.
Which you shouldn't have to. You should just honestly have like some like young dude following us around, giving us the rest of the money that's been
I think
tipped.
it was the voice he said, or how I feel about myself being naked. But it just made me think like I would be like the little goblin guy from the Lord of the Rings movies, because watch me gather up my money from the stage. Like people would just be like, I'm so creeped out right now.
I don't like it.
Yeah, this is
Yes.
not attractive.
I totally agree with you though. That's my least favorite part, when I don't have the energy or creative drive to zhuzh it up in a tasteful way.
Yeah. Daryl Hannah thinks she found the flower guy. She gives him the dance we talked about earlier. It's cross-cut with another performer and more terrible music. The sequences in this movie are so uninteresting and unerotic for something that described itself as erotic.
Not tasteful.
This movie is the least sexy thing.
Really?
It's very...
Truly.
Anyway. She gets a big stack of cash. Tilly invites her roomie to bed to sing her a song. We get Sandra crying and smoking as she goes home. They talk about the awkward transition. I'm burning through all these because we've gone a little long. They talk about the awkward transition of ending a day at 3 in the morning or sunrise or 7. Is this something that you encounter? You said you get your schedule on a certain day and you don't really know prior that you're like, oh, I'm closing that day.
Totally. Yeah. I'm glad that you brought that up because that's a huge thing for everyone. And some of us are nocturnal. Some of us have different circadian rhythms. Some of us are like born to work at night. And so a lot of people are like, well, I guess I'll stay up forever. But it's an awkward transition in terms of how late it is until the next day. What do I do? Do I have commitments? The energy of that late at night is very interesting. It can be very magical and great. And it can also just be like kind of sad and weird. And it also kind of touches on this weird, like trying to figure out, every dancer tries to figure out like a ritual of how to go back into like, how do I go home as Gidget?
Right. Yeah.
Where does Gidget leave and I go into bed? Like where is the mix here? Especially because so like my stripper persona is just so eerily similar to my regular personality. It's really hard for me to differentiate who I am and when and where, and like what I have to offer. And just in terms of even if you've worked any customer service job, it's kind of the same. It's just kind of like general face you put on to interact with people on a certain level.
When you're going to be like an elevated version of yourself when you're performing, because you're not going to just go up on stage and just like slowly saunter around like, this is how I feel today, so this is what you get.
Yeah,
like,
you got to be like, hi everyone, I've never been happier to see you. La la la. Yeah, I had the best day ever. How's yours?
Yeah.
But yeah, I often ask coworkers of mine like, what do you do to transition from like sexy stripper to like, I'm ready for bed, I'm getting in my comfies.
Right.
And some people like, you know, hand wash their underwear and like have this ritual, or like always take a shower, make sure you're like clean, which I definitely prefer. Sometimes at closing shifts though, I'm super tired, but cleaning your underwear off and like hanging it up. Or one of my coworkers, Cobra, I already referenced her before, but she listens to like 2 Disney movie songs on the way home, like something from like The Lion King and
that's
something else.
Purification.
Yeah, I was like, that is the cutest, coolest thing I've probably ever heard.
Is it Cobra on Instagram?
Yes, I think her Instagram is the Pole Cobra.
The Pole Cobra.
Pretty sure. If not, I'm sure you can type in Cobra and she'll come up.
Okay.
She's the best. She works at Lucky and at Sassy's.
Oh, great.
She's great. So Cobra, thanks for the amazing idea for transition. I'm still looking for mine. The underwear thing is really helpful. Stretching, going home, listening to something, having tea, like something to keep, because usually you have a 9 to 5. You get off work at 5 and you're like, I'm going to go have dinner. I'm going to go hang out. I'm going to go take a nap. And then, you know, whatever. Or meditate. Meditating is huge as well. And so it's hard when you're like, I need to rush to bed.
Right.
Because I used to be a stripper while having a 9 to 5. So I would be like, cool, I have to work at 3 hours. I need to just go to bed immediately.
Yeah.
Instead of like, think about my day. Write about it. Call my mom. You know, like whatever you need. So I like that they said that. They're like, it's a weird, awkward magic moment.
Well, it's separate from the rest of people that work the 9 to 5. Like if you're still awake at 3, you know, in the morning, everyone else has gone to bed except for the night crowd.
Yeah, and in Portland, every bar is already closed, so you can't go anywhere, really.
Right, it's not like New York or something.
Right.
You know how, like, when you're in here and it's always dark, it's always like 1 o'clock in the morning. It's about, you know, morning, stuff inside you.
Stuff inside you. Me too.
So then the longest scene is, I think, second longest, is about poetry. And a person who loves poetry, and as someone who appreciates the art form, I can tell you this is such a boring scene, and it is so unerotic. And then they go out to breakfast. Two characters, Eddie and another guy, go out to breakfast, and the movie ends. And that's the end of the film.
Yeah. What?
Yeah. I was just like so mad. And I lived through the 90s independent movies where it's like a day in the life kind of thing.
Right.
I'm used to it. But this movie is so interesting because I'm not sure why it exists.
Right, there's like not quite enough buildup of any there's like some buildup of every character. Like I was talking to your wife about, I was like, okay, so everyone could have been the protagonist.
Yeah.
And you never find out who it is because nothing ever finishes.
Yes.
Or there's not enough buildup to really be invested in any one character.
No.
By the end of the movie, I was like, I guess that's fine. I didn't really care too much to find out.
I guess that's fine is what they should have called the film.
I guess that's fine at the Blue Iguana.
Yes, exactly. Because the dancing was so minimal.
Right.
It's just, I mean, I really appreciate the film for us to have this conversation because we were able to touch on some of the many interesting aspects of the profession, but it's such an odd duck of a film.
I know.
Yeah.
I also,
very weird.
the first trailer, I watched 2 trailers
Oh,
for
you
it,
saw the
and there was
trailers.
one trailer where it was
Yeah.
just like weird, bad club music.
Oh, that's not even in the movie.
Yeah, I know. Did you see that trailer?
Yeah.
I was like, is he really going to make me watch this?
Yeah. I know it's 2002, which is like, oh, this is going to be rough. We're at the turn of the century, coming out of the 90s. The aesthetic can be really rough. But because it was in a strip club, it kind of fit.
Yeah,
You
and then I
know?
watched another trailer where it was actually like some lines,
Yeah.
some slightly interesting or intriguing scenes, and I was
However,
like, oh,
they
okay.
cut that.
Yeah, got it. But that one first trailer, I was like, oh god, this man's gonna make me watch this thing.
I know. I have unfortunately asked people to watch movies that they did not like, and
This was at least it was like engaging enough.
yeah, I'm just hoping to talk about something that people probably haven't seen because all the actors are doing excellent performances. It's just the way this thing is put together feels disjointed. And, you know, even like Jennifer Tilly is, I think, fantastic as this character, but the way that it's structured, when she's going off, there's nothing leading up to that. You're just
Right.
like, here's a crazy Jennifer Tilly scene, and you're just like, all right.
It's kind of like what you were saying before, where you're like, I need to get a private dance for science.
Right.
It's like I would recommend watching it. I wouldn't
Yeah.
say don't watch it, but it's more of like out of curiosity about what they're trying to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if it was for science.
Yeah.
I watched it and I was like, interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they? I like watching movies like that sometimes where you like don't necessarily trust the creative
Yeah,
process.
no, that's
in
my
it.
favorite thing. I mean, to pick a movie for us to have a conversation about that I had never seen,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a wild card.
Yeah.
You know, like we've never talked. I've never seen this movie, and I'm like, let's get together and talk about this movie and
Hi,
record it.
I've never met you. Let's try it.
Let me ask you questions about your life.
Let me
It's
bring a
like,
stripper
oh,
into my
all right.
house and talk about this movie that neither of us know about.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's
I
fine.
think it's great. This is a great podcast.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. This is probably going to be a two-parter, so it'll be the first.
Woohoo.
Yeah, we've talked about so many interesting things. I think it's going to have to. But we finished talking about the film and reached the final part of the podcast.
Another
So-
game?
No, even better. It's just my favorite questions at the end, and these are just about you. So, are there any common misconceptions about being a performer, stripper, dancer?
No. Why would you think that?
Yeah, it's all well understood.
It's all very well understood, not stigmatized, and always positive. Yeah, many of the ones that you would assume, right? Where
Yeah.
like people make so many assumptions about who I am when I say I'm a stripper. I also have the privilege of feeling safe enough in most of the environments I spend time in the day to be able to say, hi, I'm a stripper. So I feel like part of my work
Yeah.
in the industry, it lives there where I feel like my responsibility, I suppose, as a stripper is to normalize it a little bit more for people because some folks don't have the opportunity to or don't feel safe talking about it.
Right. Yeah.
And so there's a little bit of like that's part of the camaraderie of it as well. Where like sometimes you don't have the opportunity to meet people who don't have the same level of privilege, but we gravitate towards people of similar
Yeah.
breeds.
Yeah.
And so I don't live in a community near people who don't have a similar set of things that have led them to be in my periphery.
Got it.
I guess if that makes sense. And so I have the opportunity to start talking about it. I always sometimes I'll order coffee or I'll be at a meeting at a coffee shop and I'll get something and I'll pay in ones. And I'll be like, oh, it's just my dirty stripper money. And they'll laugh awkwardly and I'm like, I'm serious.
And then they're like, I'm not going to take that dollar out of your mouth. Like, would you just...
Yeah, I try to feed it to them.
You do the same thing?
Yeah.
That's how you pay people?
Yeah, I put it in my mouth and make them take it out.
You just... How much is that? They're like, $4. You start building a little house.
Yes. Oh my God, that's brilliant. I'm going to do that next time. Sorry it's taking so long to pay.
It's hard to build these houses.
God, how do I make an origami heart again? God. Oh, that's the worst. Yeah, so there's definitely like negative stigmas that come with it, but I feel very fortunate to be in a position where I can talk about it with folks,
yeah.
and it feels really important. And there are so many amazing people in the industry in Portland specifically who do that. Like Elle, she's stripper writer on Instagram.
Okay.
She has her own podcast, actually.
Oh, great.
It's called Strange Bedfellows. I don't know the exact tag to find it on.
I'll find it and put it on, yeah.
Yeah, but if you can find her on Instagram, she does a lot of work around
That's great.
yeah, like exposing the truth about sex, sexuality, everything. Like she's also more politically involved as well, so she talks a lot about activism in that regard. So it's definitely, there's a lot of misconceptions, and I find myself going through a lot of the process of like, I'll think of myself as less than sometimes because the stigma runs so deep.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it's so much harder of a job than I ever thought it would be. And I grew up a performer. So there's like the meta / philosophical realm that comes with being like, who am I for the world at any given moment? In the sense of that what do I provide for people in the world? And you have the opportunity and also so much time on your hands to be thinking about that.
Yeah.
And it can drive you mad. Like I went through a dangerously low mental health period when I first broke into full-time stripping, when I kind of stepped all in, and kind of said goodbye to a lot of the rest of the structured world, where I was like faced with the understanding of like, I don't have the distraction of work. You know, when you're at your 9 to 5 and you're like, I can't wait to like make my podcast on the weekends or whatever. And like when you have every minute of every day to do whatever you want, with the only accountability you have is yours to yourself, you have like a lot of time and opportunity to get really in your head.
Yeah. I mean, we work for ourselves. We make our own schedule. That means that we are responsible for everything. And when things aren't, we have a natural ebb and flow because of holiday seasons and things like that. You have downtime. Like we have maybe 2.5 months where that's a lot of time to think the empire's crumbling.
Right.
You know?
And you're like, oh.
Our brains just naturally go that way. Like, if we're not doing the thing, then it's just like, it's all over. Like, you're failed. Like, it's so ridiculous.
You have to choose what you assign value to. And when it's your entire responsibility of a living, breathing creature, where you're like, okay, life and nature and existing as a human just involves, like, air, wind, food, entertainment, like what is the value of life? And you have so much opportunity to think about that, because the structure that we are raised to believe is all of it is no longer relevant. And that's one of the hardest parts of being an independent contractor or independent worker and a stripper specifically, as well as, you know, because it's in the independent life, in addition to all of the stigma, in addition to the fact that you are performing a version of yourself for people, and like you would also assign value to like what that looks like for you, because you also have to figure out, who am I? And an element of self-awareness is knowing how you are perceived by people. And people don't necessarily know how to break down elements of self-awareness.
That's correct.
There's also a really good book called Insight. Oh, I forget the name of the author. Tasha, no, I forget what her name is. I'll have to add it in later, whatever. Tasha Urich, I think.
Okay.
Anyway, Insight. It's all about the elements of self-awareness.
Inside or insight?
Insight.
Okay.
Yeah. So an element of it is knowing how you are perceived to people, and so especially like a lot of us are very young. A lot of people start at 18 who like, I had no idea who I was. I still am learning. Everyone's learning forever, and so like being able and like having this like kind of responsibility to know how you come off and what to do to manipulate that and how to enjoy it and how to make it your own. And like what you were saying, you're like, do you slap your heels against what's your move? Like, what's your move?
What's your thing?
What's your thing? So learning your own flavor, learning your thing, and the people who are attracted to you is such an incredible opportunity for like learning, you know? And so there's a lot more to it, I think, than a lot of people believe.
Yeah.
There's so much to it.
So. Yeah. And it's rare for people to get an opportunity. Like, people ask all the time, I mean, we have a daughter that's at school, so you meet other parents and they instantly are like, what do you do for a living?
Oh, my.
And it's just like, it's always just this surface thing. They're just like, I have got that fact, moving on in conversation. But to actually get to sit down and talk to like an independent contractor and have them go through the ins and outs or the pluses and negatives is fascinating, because that's how we actually learn about each other. And you can't really do that when you're working.
Right.
Which is when most people would interact with you. You're like, I'm on the clock right now, so I can't really delve into that.
Right. And it's interesting to have a job where sometimes you have to act like it's not your job.
Yeah.
And also you have to understand, like, you have to constantly be reminding people that, like, your identifier isn't necessarily who you are,
Yes.
or it is and it's okay. You know,
Yeah.
when sometimes people will inevitably look at anyone funny when they say whatever job they have.
Yeah.
And I also, being someone who asks that kind of question all the time because I small talk and build tiny relationships daily for a living, is sometimes I just want to ask, okay, what do you like to do? Mm-hmm. What do you like to do with
That's
your
a
free
better
time?
question.
Yeah, it's also less intrusive. Some people don't want to tell you how much money they're making.
Right.
You never know. And
It's true.
yeah.
What's a good day like for you?
Like a good work day.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, what's a good weekend like? A good work day for me is it's very emotional. It's going into the day, like showing up for work already feeling good. Mm-hmm. So if I've already had a productive morning, or if I've gotten a couple things done that I like to do, like my releases come from creativity. So if I haven't sung in a while, I get cranky.
Yeah.
If I haven't exercised, or if I haven't written, or if I haven't made something creatively for a while, then I get really cranky. So ideally a good day is like I've had the opportunity to do something productive, creatively at home with friends. I've gotten to meditate, eat something healthy that doesn't make me feel gross at work. And I show up to work and expect nothing.
Nice.
Having a day where I do the impossible of having no real expectations, which humans rarely have.
Yeah.
That's a good day.
That's great.
Obviously making good money is great, and like having fun visitors, but having no expectations is the best. And also, like, anytime I get to work, I love my coworkers. I always leave Devil's Point like weeping with joy because I get to work with them. Even if it's slow, we have the camaraderie aspect. We have like so much to share with each other. So that's a good day. Obviously making great money. Like, I had an amazing day last week where it was like the least expected happened. Most of my money came from 2 people, which is usually how it is. And neither of them asked too much of me, tried to overstep boundaries. They were all very polite and just paid very generously and were very kind.
That's awesome.
It was absurd. And like, conversations are great. If I can go to work and have like a meaningful conversation with someone that is like igniting and inspiring to me,
Yeah.
that's a great day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What is a bad day?
Is none of that. Yeah, if I don't have the opportunity to like do anything productive before work, if I wake up on the wrong side of the bed, if I'm feeling gross in my body, because you have to have a certain element of like, this is it.
Right.
You don't have to be like, I'm obsessed with myself, but you got to be like, this is it. Take it or leave it. When you're comfortable enough with who you are. Because I don't have like a specific body type that is like generally always palatable. You know, not everyone likes what I have to offer. Same goes for everyone, you know? So sometimes it's easy to forget that and be like, I want to be everyone's flavor, when you will never be.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of something that I think about all the time is we don't often say this enough to ourselves. This isn't for me. Like, we're always judging things, or our brain is like, I like this, I don't like this.
A general better or worse than.
But there's like endless possibilities in the world, and it's just like, just go, oh, this isn't for me. Oh, this is for me, or whatever. Just turn your focus towards something that you do appreciate rather than be stuck on things that we don't, if that makes sense. And I think we do it with ourselves too, where we're just like, ugh, like so upset rather than finding something that's more positive.
It's a taste thing. You're right. Exactly. It's such a good way of putting it. Like, just because I don't like chocolate doesn't mean... That's not true, everyone.
It doesn't mean chocolate's bad.
It doesn't mean chocolate's bad.
Yeah.
At all.
Or I don't like this movie. This movie's stupid. Or really, that movie's just not for you.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Find something that is for you, and maybe you'll be a little bit in a better mood than just like, all these things don't interest me.
Right.
You
So,
know?
So a day where you really feel out of touch with that, or you feel like I have immense capability to be social, and I pride myself on like my skill that lies in like making everyone feel comfortable in a room, doesn't matter who you are, and like I kind of grew up as a mediator, so that was always really easy for me. But sometimes I can't find my charm, And I'll show up to work and
Sure.
I'll be like,
got it.
and I'm
Yeah.
like funny, but not in the fun way. Funny in the way where people are like, I don't want to keep watching this.
Right.
I feel really uncomfortable. It's like the scene in the Blue Iguana where where she's trying to adopt the kid.
Yeah.
We're like, I don't want to watch it.
It's not working.
Making me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So when you're at work like that and you're like, I feel weird in my body. Sometimes you'll go on stage and you'll be like, I don't know how to dance. I don't know what that thing is on there. Do I
Right.
touch it? Do I touch the pole? Like sometimes I'll forget every dance move I've ever learned for no
Yeah.
particular reason. So
It's
yeah,
just stage.
there's a lot of like centeredness that you have to really focus on, at least for me, because I'm sensitive in certain ways that maybe other dancers aren't.
Yeah.
But that's a bad day.
And this brings us to the last question, and it's my favorite.
Great.
What are your dreams like?
Like at night,
Mm-hmm.
not my daydreams. Actually, since I started practicing TM, they've been a little bit more vivid.
Oh.
That's a fun thing. I also try and convert everyone to learning transcendental meditation.
Yeah, that's the big takeaway, I think.
Yeah, watch the Blue Iguana movie and learn TM.
Yeah.
So go to the
In that order.
in that order. Actually, sandwich it.
Yeah. Make your mantra something iguana related.
Yeah, exactly. Build your own. So they've been increasingly more vivid. I do have a lot. And my meditations actually, because like TM is actually also like, it's sort of like consciously getting yourself into a dream state where you're like, am I asleep?
Yeah.
So yeah, some of my dreams are really bizarre. I have a lot of them where I'm not flying, but I'm like hovering 3 or 4 feet above the ground, like walking around.
Oh.
I'd like to think it's a power thing.
Yeah.
My stress dreams mostly involve like my teeth falling out or being
Yeah,
late.
that's right.
I'm like always late to something
Yeah.
and I can't find my way there.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge one for me. Also because it's largely true. I was 15 minutes late today. Not that it mattered.
Not that it mattered because I had the day wrong. So that's a little behind the
Independent
scenes.
contractor
Yes.
life, everyone. Everyone quit your job and try this. Yeah, so a lot of my dreams are like that. I do definitely have a lot of stripper dreams because
Yeah.
it's so easy to be absorbed in it.
Yeah, the work dreams. That's where the question really comes from. Is like, you know,
Yeah.
what, like when I worked retail, it was folding shirts. Like you're endlessly folding
Mm-hmm.
shirts that people are just unfolding. It's that monotony that your brain's just like, oh, this is what we're doing day in and day out. So the
There's-
stripper dreams, are you just performing or?
The thing is that it seems like a monotonous job like any other because there's really only a few things that happen, but it is not. It doesn't
Right.
feel that way, at least for me. I think it might for other folks, but for me, it's such a creative pursuit where every time I'm on stage, I'm like trying to think in terms of like, I'm so scientific about it because I grew up with that education. So I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, levels. How often do I go back here next to the mirror? How often do I do floor work or go up high or flip or like, what do we need? So I'm thinking so scientifically about it and strategically. And we also all get absorbed in each other's lives. So we're like on Instagram and I'm looking at all these pole videos being like, how the F did
Yeah.
you do that? And then I'm obsessively trying to like problem solve and figure out how to do a pole trick while sleeping. And getting really imaginative and all of that. And
Yeah.
sometimes things will come. So it's definitely a lot of like, it's definitely very strippery. I don't have a lot of like dreams that people probably think strippers have where they're like, I got abducted by a scary guy.
God.
Or like a million sex dreams about the club. Or,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
like some people have certain...
You're
People
like,
think, yeah.
that guy I gave a lap dance to really was special.
I really do want to marry him. Oh my God. There are some special guys. I love my clients.
Oh, sure,
I
yeah.
love them. I don't often dream about them. I'm sure I have, though. I have dreamt about clients before. 100%. And they're usually really sweet.
That's nice.
I don't usually have
good.
weird bad dreams. Usually, I like we pick our clients.
Yeah.
If you're a stripper's client, be a good boy or girl, and congrats. It's
you
always
go.
good to know a stripper.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I can't thank you enough for this. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for watching the Dancing at the Blue Iguana.
It was an honor.
There it is. Yeah. And thanks for coming in and recording.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.